Donald Trump is declaring war on the Democratic debates. It was a couple weeks ago that it was reported Trump was considering not debating the Democratic nominee because he's concerned about potential bias from the commission. There's good reason to suspect there's a bias, and I want to go through that story with you from a couple weeks ago, but now we're seeing the actual tactical plan from Donald Trump. Trump to counter Iowa Democratic debate with Wisconsin rally. That's right. While the Democrats are on stage debating various policy ideas, Trump is going to be on stage expressing his ideas, creating a competing media narrative. And I got to tell you this, ratings for the Democratic debates have been declining rapidly. The last debate, I believe, was the lowest. Before that was the lowest, and it just keeps going down. Not only that, a lot of people are being excluded because the ever-expanding, or I should say, the more difficult criteria with every Democratic debate removes some popular candidates. Notably, Tulsi Gabbard wasn't able to qualify for the last debate, though she said she wouldn't do it in the first place. We saw Andrew Yang recently ask for more polls so we can see more diversity on this Democratic debate. Notably, again, Cory Booker didn't make it either. As semi-popular candidates, though they poll low, are getting removed, less people care to watch these things. I'm willing to bet Donald Trump's campaign rally, should it be covered by, say, Fox News, will get more ratings than the actual Democratic debate, and Trump knows it. But that brings me to the bigger point, moving forward, why Trump is going to refuse to debate the Democratic nominee, period. And I'm going to show you why, because there is favoritism, and there is actual statistical evidence that Trump will be hurt by it. Now they're trying to play up that Trump is scared. I kid you not, there's an article saying Trump admits he's not scared to debate. No, it's not so much about being scared, it's about why should Trump cede any ground. Personally, he should debate. If the Democratic opponent gains in the polls, it means Trump did a bad job and good. But Trump is going to play it safe, presumably, and do things like this. So let's get started and read about exactly what's going on with Trump's Wisconsin rally counter to the Democratic debate. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do, share this video. Let's break some echo chambers for our New Year's resolution. I know it's not perfect. I know I have my biases. But more importantly, I believe the end is nigh for YouTube commentary channels, political commentators and journalist types like me, because YouTube is effectively quarantining our channels. They're removing us from recommendations, and they're pushing our viewers towards mainstream media, which means over a long enough period of time, my channel will stop appearing on your channel, and you'll have to seek people out. That means the best way to survive this tumultuous time is for y'all, if you like what I do, to share the video. That would be greatly appreciated, and it would counteract anything an algorithm would do. Let's read the news from the Associated Press. They say, President Donald Trump will hold a campaign rally in Wisconsin next month, countering a Democratic presidential debate set for the same night in Iowa. Trump's campaign says the rally is set for January 14th at the UW Milwaukee Panther Arena. It's the same night that CNN and the Des Moines Register are sponsoring the first Democratic presidential debate of 2020 at Drake University in Des Moines. The Milwaukee rally will be Trump's second in less than a week. The Republican president's campaign has said he'll hold his first 2020 rally in Toledo, Ohio on January 9th. All three events could unfold against the backdrop of Trump's impeachment trial in the Senate. The Democratic-controlled House voted earlier this month to impeach Trump on charges of abuse of power and obstructing Congress over his dealings with Ukraine. A Senate trial is the next step in the process, but it has been delayed while lawmakers figure out whether to call new witnesses. All right, let's stop there for a second. I want to show you this story from the Washington Post that says Donald Trump clearly won the Democratic debate. It's an opinion piece from September in one of the older debates. But I want to point something out. I've tried to figure out what the point of impeachment was. You may have heard me say this, so I'll just make it quick because they brought it up. But think about what will happen with the Democratic debates and campaign and the campaign trail just before Super Tuesday in March. If the Democrats push for a Senate trial, it's not going to hurt Trump. Trump's going to get more press. He's going to keep doing his thing. He's already made tons of money. His polls are already up. People are already overwhelmingly opposing impeachment. Who's it going to hurt? It's not going to hurt Joe Biden. It might if bad press comes out, maybe some witnesses. It's going to hurt Bernie. It's going to hurt some of these other senators who are running for the Democratic ticket who might miss a debate or are going to get pulled off the campaign trail to participate in a Senate trial where they're not allowed to speak and must sit quietly as impartial jurors. And then Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden will be free to campaign just before Super Tuesday. And maybe that's the real reason they're doing it. This idea is not mine. It was actually floated by a lot of progressives. We'll see what happens. Either way, seems like the Democrats are nuts for pushing it because it's only propping up Trump. But let's go back in time. I got a bunch of stuff I want to show you about the Democratic debates, and I want to tell you why Trump's probably strategically correct to avoid debating Democrats, although, in my opinion, ethically wrong to do so, but it's his choice. In this op-ed from the Washington Post in September, Kathleen Parker writes, "Watching the Democratic presidential debate Thursday night left one clear impression. Donald Trump won." Wait. You might be saying, how could he have won? He wasn't on the stage. That's exactly why he won. She says, "Please don't shoot the messenger. My left index finger recoiled a bit as it reached for the T on the keyboard. But it's true for this reason. Democrats are too earnest. They care too much. They're too smart. They know too much." Oh, just wait for me to refute this. You're gonna love it. Hold on, let me say this. But wait, there's more. I got a whole list of sources rejecting the premise. But let's read on. Whoever says, as Senator Kamala Harris did, the American people are so much better than this, needs to get out more. This isn't to recommend that primary candidates should be more like President Trump, not that they could, but as a panel of candidates, they're missing a key element essential to voter interest. Not brilliant policies or the rote delivery of statistics, but a clear and firm message, as well as that other thing that Trump had in 2016, quote, it. We're used to saying it girl, but boys have it too, and she's putting it in quotes. It isn't necessarily good. In fact, in men, it's probably just a little bit bad. Bad enough to attract attention, to convey toughness, to seduce with dazzle, or at least bedevil those around him. Love him or hate him, or just wish him away, Trump has the X factor in spades and jokers. She's right. So she goes on to talk about a variety of things, but she's right about this. Donald Trump has the X factor. Why should Donald Trump bother sharing a stage with someone who doesn't have it if it's only going to result in a bump? But the reality is, she's overwhelmingly wrong. See, she says they're too earnest. They care too much. They're too smart. They know too much. I seem to recall Tulsi Gabbard taking Kamala Harris to task. And it became this major news cycle. Tulsi was the most searched for candidate. She utterly destroyed Kamala Harris, pointing out her horrible record on law enforcement. So no, they're not too earnest. They're all liars for the most part, and a couple of them I think are honest. I happen to like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard. Take it for what it is. We'll see if they make the next debate. But let's move on to some of the main issues of the debate that helped Donald Trump win even though he wasn't on the stage. You want to talk about them being too earnest? How about this? This is the famous story many of you are probably familiar with, and I'll tell you this right now. It's the end of the year, it's New Year's, so let's consider this a kind of like flashback episode of all the most popular cuts of the Democratic debates. Show of hands on immigrant health care belies a thorny issue. Why, yes, we all remember when the Democratic candidates were asked, how many of your plans for government health care would include non-citizens? And they all raised their hands, some of them seemingly begrudgingly. This was a very, very bad moment. In fact, this moment was so bad, they made a rule for the next debate, I think this is true, fact check me, that you couldn't ask a show of hands question anymore because it made them all look insane. And they did. Because I'll tell you this, man, America is not the woke Twitterati. Regular Americans were shocked to discover that they were offering up government healthcare, their taxpayer dollars, to people who weren't citizens of the country. But wait, there's more. How about this story? The National Review. This is just from a week or so ago. Biden says yes to sacrificing oil and gas jobs for clean energy. I brought this up in my earlier segment on this channel, that Joe Biden is making the same mistake Hillary Clinton did. And Hillary Clinton said it was one of her biggest regrets when she said that one of her tasks was to end the coal industry or something to that effect. Joe Biden gets up on the debate stage and says yes to sacrificing oil and gas jobs for clean energy. And when it comes to healthcare, I also highlighted this earlier, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren saying 2 million jobs to be cut. Now, there's a reason why I'm highlighting this. It's not just because the Washington Post wants to claim they care too much and they're too earnest. I think what I've shown you here, first and foremost, they're not too earnest. They have no idea what they're talking about when they raise their hand to giving away healthcare. And they don't care too much when they say they're going to sacrifice your job for their ideology. That's the opposite. What we're really seeing is exactly why Donald Trump has no reason to debate the Democrats. They have thrown themselves under the bus with ridiculous, insane policy. Donald Trump need only sit back and laugh as they continually push lies, deception, and ridiculous policy platforms that Americans don't agree with. Why would Trump give them the opportunity to correct the record? He won't. He doesn't need to. I think he won't. Here's another story. Elizabeth Warren dodges questions on middle-class tax hikes under Medicare for All. Democratic presidential candidates tore into Elizabeth Warren after she dodged questions on whether middle-class Americans would have to pay more in taxes under her Medicare for All proposal. This one's a twofer. You see, in this debate story, Warren refused to answer the question and got mocked for it, and then Bernie Sanders did the right thing and admitted your taxes will go up. They're going to take away your private health care if you want it, and your taxes will go up, but overall costs are expected to go down. It's a fair point. Bernie's basically saying, yes, just say it. We will tax you. You will pay more, but you'll pay less in healthcare costs. That's his pitch. And I appreciate him being honest. But once again, we can see this is a twofer. You see, the Democrats heard Elizabeth Warren refusing to be honest. That was bad for the Democrats. That was bad for Warren. Then they heard they're going to raise your taxes, take away your private health care. That was also bad for Democrats. Why would Trump actually need to debate them? It would give them an opportunity to correct the record, which is why we're hearing Trump might not. But let's move on, because I want to get more to Trump's reasoning. There's a story from the New York Times explaining why he doesn't want to do it. Here's a story I've highlighted several times, and I know I've been rehashing this. If you've watched all of my videos, you've seen it several times, but I have to do it for contextual reasons. I have to show the sources. It's a certified source. It's Vox, and there's a lot of people who don't watch every video. Democrats' 2020 economy dilemma explained. They say, at Thursday's debate, there seemed to be a firm consensus among the candidates that the right path is simply to deny that the economy really is performing all that strongly. See, even the left-wing Vox has admitted the economy is doing great. They say President Donald Trump, with his typical flair, is saying we have the greatest economy in history. It isn't, but something can in fact be quite good even without being the best ever. This is from Vox. They're progressives. They're straight up telling us the economy is good. We all know it. We have a poll from USA Today where 80% of people said their life is getting better next year because the economy is doing really, really well, and they say it's because of Trump. The Democrats' only option is to deny, as Vox has pointed out. So here's what I'm laying out before you. Take a look at this story from the New York Times. Will Trump debate a Democrat in 2020? He's not so sure. The president's concern is not so much whom he will be debating, but the commission that runs the debates. I think Trump should debate. I think he really, really should. I think it is the moral thing to do. However, I can't blame him for not doing it. It's not just about the strategic advantage. See, all of that stuff I just showed you are huge net negatives for the Democrats. Right now, consultants are scrambling, papers are flying, scripts are being written, and they're telling the Democrats how to correct their message. Given the next opportunity, here's what you need to say. And we noticed this. As the debates went on, people sort of walked things back. Kamala Harris at first said, I'll abolish your private health care, and then was like, no, I didn't mean it. A fact check, man, that one, I don't have that source pulled up. I always want to make sure I make that clear. But we can see they started to walk back the more extreme policy when they realized it was unpopular. On the debate stage, they're trying to win, and so they're constantly one-upping each other to be more left. This is a huge advantage for Trump. They have spun a web for which they cannot escape, and Donald Trump debating them would give them the advantage in correcting the record. But Trump has a real reason not to do it. Proof is in the pudding that the moderators are biased. Check this out. CNN's Anderson Cooper faces scrutiny for invoking Hunter Biden in Democratic debate. This is back from October 15th. CNN's Anderson Cooper was accused Tuesday night of giving Joe Biden a pass on his son's business dealings in Ukraine and also for elevating the president's lies and bringing them up at all. Well, they're trying to make it seem like, well, Anderson Cooper played both and it was wrong because he helped Trump, but he also, gave Biden a pass. No, the reality is Americans have real questions about why Joe Biden's son was getting paid so much for doing so little. That's legitimate. You call it Trump's lie, that's ridiculous. We know for a fact Hunter Biden had this job, and we want to know why. I don't care what the reason is, I want to know why. Was it because he got a job over his daddy's name? Well, I'm upset by that, and Joe Biden should not be president if he sits around while his kids use his name to peddle influence. Sorry, not happy. But what happened then? Anderson Cooper said, we know it's debunked and not true. Care to answer? Well, thanks for answering for him. You didn't answer any of the questions. You just asserted something that wasn't true to defend Joe Biden when the questions were never answered. And that's the real reason Donald Trump shouldn't be debating. I mean, in terms of, whether or not it's going to be fair and strategic, Donald Trump is looking at two things. They've already been biased in favor of the establishment. They've already cut certain people out. The DNC is rejecting Andrew Yang's calls for more polls. Look at this from the other day. DNC rejects Yang's request for new polls ahead of the next debate. These candidates have repeatedly been saying you need to accept these polls, you need to push this, and the establishment had said, buzz off. So Trump knows the whole thing is rigged. It's even rigged against the lesser-known Democrats. So why would Trump bother participating in a rigged debate? Especially when the Democrats have already laid their bed for themselves with ridiculous statements and ridiculous policy. But let me show you this story. The New York Times brings up a really interesting point about what Trump learned from 2016. They report, President Trump is discussing with his advisors the possibility of sitting out the general election debates in 2020 because of his misgivings about the commission that oversees them, according to two people familiar with the discussions. Mr. Trump has told advisors that he does not trust the Commission on Presidential Debates, the nonprofit entity that sponsors the debates, the two people said. Less of a concern for Mr. Trump than who will emerge as the Democratic nominee is which media personality will be chosen as debate monitor, according to people in contact with him. And that brings me back to the story I showed you about Anderson Cooper. They're going to have a biased left-wing journalist, and Trump's going to say, not interested. He doesn't need to be. He's going to hold a campaign rally at the same time and espouse his message to a willing base, and it's going to be aired on TV. Why bother with debating? Again, I think he should debate. I'd like to hear his ideas challenged. But it's bad from across the board, and I'll blame the media for this one. The media, who is biased and has already shown they will defend Joe Biden when no answers were given to any of us over what his son was doing. Think about it. If Joe Biden's the nominee and he's on stage with Trump, Anderson Cooper's going to go up and be like, Trump, you lied. Explain your lie. Joe Biden, I'm so sorry he lied about you. Why would anyone participate in that? Check this out, though. At a State of the Race campaign briefing in Arlington, the president's advisors declined to comment on what their plan was for the debates. One senior advisor to the president seemed to wince at the question and said it was not something advisors were prepared to discuss until next year. In the 2016 general election debates, Mr. Trump repeatedly complained about being at a disadvantage to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee. And the post-debate polls showed Mr. Trump had a good reason to be concerned. Mr. Trump and Miss Clinton were... Miss Clinton? You mean Mrs. Clinton? Pretty sure she's still married to Bill, right? Were essentially tied in the polls going into the first debate. But she received a bump after each of the three face-to-face matchups. A Gallup poll conducted after the third debate, for instance, found that 60% of viewers thought Miss Clinton did a better job, while 31% chose Trump. After his performance in one of the debates was panned, Mr. Trump blamed a defective mic and questioned whether it was done on purpose to put him at a disadvantage. It turned out that a technical malfunction had indeed affected the volume of his voice during the debate. A malfunction, you say? Just like it was a glitch that Twitter removed his tweets? Sorry, we all saw that debate where Andrew Yang's mic was off. You could see him talking and no sound was coming out. And you know what? He didn't do enough about it. But Trump, on the other hand, would be like, excuse me. He'd grab someone else's mic. My mic is off. I need to talk. That's the X factor they talked about that Trump has. But you want to tell me the debates aren't rigged? I'm sorry, they 100% are. It was a technical malfunction. Oh, please. Man, you know what? My life is defined by the quote, stop making me defend Trump. That's really how you can define it. The polls are sloppy and rigged, and they were set up poorly. Call them rigged or whatever, fine. Maybe they weren't, maybe they're just wrong. That's why I use the aggregates today. But the debates were also rigged. The microphones were turned off. It was also Marianne Williamson. I believe she said that her mic was off too. And they give all of the airtime to Warren and Biden. We know how the game is played. Why would Trump bother stepping into the fray when Anderson Cooper already said, Mr. Biden, Trump lied about Ukraine. How do you feel about that? Excuse me? That is not how a debate is to be held. The moderator is not supposed to be jumping to the defense of a candidate's son. We want real answers. I'll tell you what I love, though. I love this. Look at this story from Vanity Fair. Trump swears he isn't afraid to debate Democrats in 2020. The balk strategy, a tried and true method of fifth graders all across the world, that when you can't get someone to play by your unfair rules, you just go balk until they finally give in. Sorry, if Donald Trump isn't going to debate, it's because the press is biased. And we've seen the evidence with Anderson Cooper. I'm sorry, I actually like Anderson Cooper. I think he's one of the better people on TV, but that was a major misstep. He stepped up and defended it. Let the guy answer. And then he got panned. Why are you entertaining the president's lies? It doesn't matter whose lie it is. You simply ask the question. Donald Trump has called out your son and your dealings in Ukraine. How would you respond to Trump's comments? We are dealing with a presidential debate. Don't you think it's fair to question whether or not there's validity to what Trump is saying? If Trump is lying, shouldn't we say, Joe Biden, how do you feel? And then Joe Biden could say Trump is lying. Here's what I'm saying. Shouldn't Joe Biden respond to what the president has said in the press? No. Anderson Cooper's response is basically that Trump is a liar. Great. So I'm loving Vanity Fair's Bok Bok Bagok method. We'll see if it plays out well for them. I kind of think it won't, because Trump he plays strategically. He knows how to run the press. He knows how the game is played, and he plays it better than the Democrats. Thus, he is holding a rally during the Democratic debates, and I'm willing to bet the ratings for his rally will probably be better. Okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's a bit unfair. I bet the Democratic debates ratings are going to be like 5 million. Trump's rally might be only a couple million. But Trump's going to get a lot of views online, and Trump's going to steal the limelight. He's going to make sure a lot of people, I'll put it this way. While the Democrats are spitting and yowling and talking about their crazy policies, as I've already shown you, the weird gaffes and stuff they've had, Trump's going to draw attention away from them. It's entirely possible that while we saw the Democratic debates getting around 6 million viewers in the last debate, Trump's ratings might pull several million away from that debate towards his rally, in which case the ratings may be even lower. Listen, I watch the Democratic debates. I also watch the Trump rallies. I watch the news. I want to see what's being said. I'm going to have to choose now between Trump and the debates. A lot of people will feel that way. But I'm going to wrap this up with one final story. I never like using singular polls, okay? I always like using the aggregate, and right now in the aggregate, Trump's job approval rating is around it's at a high point. Its aggregate is around 45%, which is pretty much a campaign high. As I showed you, 80% of people are optimistic. The Democrats are lying on the debate stage saying the economy is bad, but Zogby released this poll showing that Trump's approval rating is now over 50%. Whether you trust Zogby or not, some people don't. There are now a couple polls, notably Rasmussen teeters around 50%. Zogby does. Again, not a fan of using individual polls, but I want to show this. I want to wrap it up with this for one reason. The Democrats have made numerous gaffes. If more than one poll now is showing Trump's approval rating going up, if in the aggregate is going up, if among the African-American voter is at 36% according to 3 different polls, including Emerson, Trump has absolutely no reason to veer off course. His entire strategy, whatever it is working. He should stay the course, and he will keep gaining, and there's no reason to risk that by giving his platform to a Democrat. As we can see, bringing it all back to the original story, Trump is going to hold a counter event, his own rally during the debate. Why bother being on stage and telling all of his fans to look to the Democrat? He doesn't need to. I think he should. I think the debates are important for us to figure out who has the good ideas. The problem is the media has been biased, so Trump has a real excuse to say, not playing your game. Now the left will say Trump is scared, they'll say bok bok bagok, but it's not good enough. I'm sorry. Trump's got the upper hand on this one. And the New York Times even shows you why. But I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews at 6 p.m. And well, if this is the last video you watch, because you're going to get prepared for your festivities because the decade is ending in but a few hours, then Happy New Year, everybody, and I will see you all in tomorrow. But I will have 3 more shorter segments up, youtube.com/TimCastNews. It is a different channel. Thanks for hanging out.